If you have struggled enough to learn something, make sure that you are giving or you are giving back to the community. Some
Okay.
people prefer to do it in a paid mode, learn very faster. I wouldn't say that is really tough, which Postman is offering. If you are really a Postman user and if you really like it, and if you wanted to do to community, something to the Postman community beyond what you are doing other than your regular work, this program is for you. I have seen people completing their courses and posting about those certificates and bragging about it. And before that, even I wanted to state this, Gandhara, because
Hello, Priscilla. First of all, a very warm welcome to my channel, that is Salesforce Testing Guy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me, Gandhar. It's an honor to be here.
It really means a lot for me, to be very frank. And if we are talking about like today's agenda, or we are going to discuss one of the hot and trending topic, like API testing is for everyone, not for limited person. Like if a person who don't have a penny idea about like what is actually API, and he or she wants to kickstart their career in the field of API testing, then how he or she can uh, go through that particular arena. So before proceed to the set of questions that I have prepared for you, which is related to the API testing part. But I just want you to please introduce yourself to my audience so that my audience have a better insight about you, like how you have started
Sure.
your journey in the software industry.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah, as you see, you can call me Pricilla, and I'm an Indian. My husband is from Chennai, and I'm from Madurai, a small town from South India.
Yes.
And after marriage, I had to move into Malaysia. So currently, we are there with my family. And for the past 3 years, I'm associated with Billennium IT Services. And my current role is a team leader. And mostly we do API testing, because that's one of the flavor of testing, I would say, which is
Yes.
of course interesting as well, and I would love to do that as well. So we are doing API testing, and I started my software testing career more than like 10 years back. So it is already 10 years, and I started as a functional tester, and that time automation was starting to creep in, and we had all that we had was like UFT that time, UFT, VB scripts with the automation thing, whatever we call it. And then slowly other automation tools started coming into market, and I got opportunity to work for a while with EDI testing, wherein like you process the files, EDI files, wherein like there are different transactions. Based on that, you have to mock the files and do your testing. So that is EDI testing. And then for quite a bit time, I was working as an ETL tester as well, like with queries and data. And then I switched on to automation, wherein like I was using Selenium and Java for a while. And then my recent role is more towards API testing, so handling with that for every day. So this is all about my entire testing career, I would say. So other than this, out of personal stuff, like my favorite things are like, as you know, like Netflix, and I love to read, but I'm not an avid reader, but I'll at least push myself like to complete this and that.
True.
And then I love to watch TED Talks. I'm a very good fan of that. I'll make sure that because there are some people whom I follow, so I used to watch all of their videos. And other than that, yeah, all other family stuff, we have to take care of the family as well. I have to be available for them as well.
True.
And during my weekends, most of the times I spend with mentoring. So I used to meet many of the young test engineers, and also especially I can say like I'm a bit biased over here, especially the moms or the dependent ladies, like who have been migrated to the new country. And so I usually help them to, because as you mentioned before, like API testing is one of the trending topic, right?
Yes.
So every JD has that. So whatever inputs, whatever I have, the materials I have, I usually provide them and I'll help them in their interviews. So this is pretty much about me.
First of all, congratulations for a wonderful initiative. It is not at all a bias, and that you are doing it. It is just giving back to the community and making all those women independent. So that makes a difference. And thank you so much for mentioning this particular point. And you have mentioned one major point about like you have a experience of a decade. It
Mhm.
means 10 years. According to your perception and experience, is there any evolution in terms of API testing? Just right now, current year is 2022, and if we can minus 10, and the result is 2012. So, is there any difference in terms of cultural part of API testing or methodology?
Yeah, exactly. More than like 6 or 7 years before, I remember testing all those web services using SOAP UI. I still remember that because we had a front-end application which will not be available like 24/7, and because I was working for a US-based client. So that time we used to work with SOAP UI. We used to load our WSDL files, and it was more of web services based testing. And right now I can see like everywhere we have different API calls, of course.
Yes.
And different API calls, and how much it has evolved, I would say, is like initially due to the architecture, not every organization was forced to do the API testing. But right now, because of the architectural changes, in most of the places, the teams are being forced to perform API testing. Try to minimize your front-end UI testing and try to focus on. That doesn't mean like you have to rule out your API UI testing, I would say. When you focus more on your API testing, right, all your functional or the core functionalities you're covering out here, right? So based on the load has been reduced in UI. That's it. It doesn't mean like UI is completely ruled out, because I'm an UI person as well. I don't like bad jammed UI. So I'm an UI person as well. So I would say like it has been evolved in a way, like a lot of tools are there and a lot of people have a knowledge about API nowadays. And also, instead of manual API, people learned a lot about automating API test as well. So this is the evolution overall, like for the past 3 or 4 years, I'm seeing with API testing.
Okay. So Pricilla, my next question is like, how API testing is different from other type of testing that is available, like for example, database testing, ETL testing, accessibility testing, and many more, as per your experience and perception.
Sure, I'll just bit clarify because as you mentioned about different types of testing,
yes,
either they come as a front end front end testing or a back end testing, the major clarification categories, right? So API fits into a kind of back end, even though that's a middle layer. It's a back end testing because you are not seeing your front end. You don't have your front end over there, and without the look and feel of the front end,
exactly,
you have to imagine the capabilities of the API. Like, okay, so this is where it is going to do. So once I create a customer, these are the fields, like the customer will have the first name, last name, and the date created. So these are the fields. So most of the time, I believe like you should have the capability of visualizing the things. Okay. It can either be, of course, in most of the projects, you will have your front end also ready. Maybe it might be a kind of API management or API enhancement. So in that case, you will have your front end ready, so you can easily correlate. But the major challenge when it comes to API testing is like without front end, you have to start visualizing the API calls and the responses, like how does it look like? So from this page to this page, the navigation is easy in the front end, right? But when it comes to the API chaining, you should literally start imagining and visualizing things, and only then it will be easy for you. So that is one major different thing. And since it is as early, even before your front end development, most of the projects have even proven that some of the major defects are being captured in that level, API level itself, which is going to save a lot of your money. Because once you go for even your front end development, some people use some fancy frameworks to develop your front end, right? So even before developing your front end, if you are arresting some of the bugs, that's again going to save a lot of your money. So this is again another important aspect of API testing, and which is a bit different from others, I would say. Another thing is like technical expertise, Gandhar, because as you mentioned, like data that is into market for so long, so people know SQL query,
Yes.
select, insert, and also like if they wanted to, just the thing is like just the DB is going to be different. Like instead of DB2, they're going to use Oracle. So that is where it's going to be different. But in API, the technology and the terms are something new for them. Like what is API orchestration? What is an API endpoint? What is a payload? So these technological terms are something which is, again, these jargons are a bit new to people if they are again new to API testing. So this is also a bit complicated, like wherein they have to invest some initial time to learn all these jargon. And I wouldn't say that is really tough. You can definitely master in a particular period of time if you are spending your time in a exact fancy pattern of assignment, right? You can definitely learn very faster. I wouldn't say that is really tough. So I believe these are the things which is making API testing to stand out among other testings.
Okay. For example, consider a situation where Gandharv is a person who don't have any idea about like what is actually API testing and how API testing works. And Gandharv is very curious to know, like, I want to switch my career into that particular field, like that is API testing.
Okay.
Any precondition that you recommend as per your experience, like Gandharv, you have to start from this to and after completion of this, you have to do this. So any path that you recommend as per your experience?
No, but I would say at least 1 year of testing experience is mandatory. That is really good to have, I would say. Other than that, at least because they should know at least what is functional testing. As they always say, it's not like automation or manual, nothing. It's functional testing. That's it. So once you have experience in your functional testing, I would say like you are really a good candidate. But other than that, maybe few like I wouldn't say that as a luxury also. It's good to have at least a basic knowledge of API. What is an API? Say for example, Gandharv should know like when you're logging into an application, instead of your username and password, you have an option to authenticate using your Google credential. So there your Google API is involved. So this kind of basic knowledge about APIs is good to have. If he or she has that, right, then once they are onboarded, or if they wanted to shift their career towards API testing, there are a lot of courses, blogs, and people are, right, a community is really vast nowadays. I would always proudly say like testers are really good at giving back to the community. So we have a very strong base of community. So there are a lot of good-hearted people helping there outside. So that should be enough. Like you can definitely get started with that. But at the same time, you would need your hands-on as well, right? Wherein like, so there are a lot of public APIs which doesn't require any authentication. So you can make use of those public APIs and try to build your own chaining of request or a simple automation task, something like that. So that will help you.
Now, if I'm talking about the current market structure, the current market structure is divided into two major categories for segmentation. This one is non-technical and this one is totally technical. If a person who is technical and into this particular IT domain, he or she can easily switch their career in the API testing part because he regularly deals with the testing like database and so on and so forth. But on the other hand, this non-technical individual who just want to pursue or start their career in the field of API testing from scratch, from non-technical to technical as an API tester, do you give any suggestion to that particular person, like whether from where he or she has to start in order to switch on their career in that particular API testing?
Okay, in that case, I would say like I don't think that it's really a tough option, because you know how it works in India. A civil engineering, mechanical engineering graduates are still writing code, right? They are doing that. So I strongly believe that your degree or your background doesn't have anything to do that. If you have a real passion, if you have a real passion towards API and API testing, definitely you can go ahead. As you said, there is no even that's no obstacle or hindrance for them. They can definitely get started, but maybe they can start in an aspect of a non-technical person, like what we mentioned about before, the example, like Google APIs, or your even for unlocking your phone, you're using your face recognition or thumbprint. So how these are like again API calls inside. So at least this non-technical or some real lifetime based examples, if they have some knowledge, then I think they can easily onboard.
Okay. Uh, does API testing needs coding or not?
Yeah, that's this is something like you're asking me whether I need to be a good coder for automation testing, right? Me, whether I can be an automation tester, should I have a coding knowledge?
Okay.
But in today's market, this question has two different types of answer, because that is why people are investing in this low code, no code tools, right?
Exactly.
They are coming up. So I would always say, try to have the basic knowledge of that. Like, you should know what is automation testing. Once you have that knowledge, either it is coding based or a no code low code tool, definitely you can master that. The same way, once you have the basics of API testing, a manual testing, like how to hit an API call, how to build a payload, or how to modify that, how to interpret the error codes, whatever you're getting, right? So once you get that basic knowledge,
Okay.
you have the authority to choose the tool. Either you have to go for a low code or no code, or if even you wanted to write the coding. So it's totally dependent on the tool, I would say, Gandharv. But for sure, for now you can survive without coding. It's always like, I would say, like, coding is good to have skill, that's it. It's not a mandatory skill. It's always good to have skill. Other than that, even like Postman is also helping you in an extent wherein like they provide you the ready-made snippets and all those things. So that is again motivating you, like you don't want to do anything from the scratch, right? So in that way, I believe the tools are right now very user friendly. So you don't want to focus too much on coding, because I don't push people to learn coding. If you are passionate about, I would say, Java and JavaScript are a really good language right now, because most of the tools are using that. That's it.
Okay. Whenever we search on internet API testing, one
Mm.
thing only occurs: Postman.
Yeah.
Uh, and according to your perception, is any alternative tool that you recommended to all those beginners, especially not the experienced
Mm.
coders, beginners,
Mm.
so that they must have a better insight about like how to perform actually API testing?
So this is again a tricky question. For a beginner, I would say Postman is a perfect tool,
Okay.
because when I started my career, if Postman wasn't there, to be honest, if it was a different tool, I don't know like whether I would have got this love at first sight with APIs. I don't know. I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Because of that tool, the user friendliness it gave to me, I was able to relate it, because just consider a person who is totally new to API, okay, and also to automation testing, okay, he's from a
Okay.
functional background,
Perfect.
and you ask him to work with REST assured,
Mm.
okay. So for hitting a simple request, he learned to know installing an IDE, right?
Okay.
And he should know some basic snippet to write a request, to get, and to also to post, to pass some payload. So that's really tricky. But if the same person is going to work with Postman, the beauty is like the UI is always it's very user friendly. So
Yeah.
that is why, just not because of my association with Postman, I'm not like evangelizing the product. I always say I'm evangelizing Postman naturally, okay, and because of that I'm associated. That's it. So I already love Postman. That's the reason I'm associated with them. It's not that like I'm officially like posting Postman everywhere. I believe like for beginners, that's the best tool to get started. Like
Okay.
that will give you since these APIs are invisible, guys, as I always say,
Yes.
this tool will give you an look and feel, Gandharv. That's it. Like it'll
Okay.
give you a feel like where it is going, and how does the response look like, all these. So once you master in Postman, of course, based on your client request or your project requirements, you can definitely switch on to any other tool. Lot of good tools are there in market, right? I have recently used Hopscotch, which was very similar to Postman. I can easily relate or the user interface from Postman to Hopscotch. Other than that, I have explored with Catalan a while, and SoapUI
Okay.
also. So these are other tools. So I wouldn't prefer any tool like that. This is the best for you.
Gee.
It depends upon your skill set, like your programming language expertise, whatever you have, and also based on your client, right? Because if it is if it is an open source, it's fine, but if you have to go for a billing or you have to go for some payment, definitely it's your client approval.
If I'm not wrong, you are a Postman Supernova also. So, do you suggest like what is actually Postman Supernova actually?
Okay, sure. That's a good question. I really love it. Okay, because you're right. Because say for example, MuleSoft Ambassador has the word ambassador in that, so people was easily relate to that. Docker Captain, it looks fancy, but I'm not sure whether everyone is aware of that. Supernova is nothing but just an ambassadorship program which Postman is offering. If you are really a Postman user and if you really like it, and if you wanted to do to community, something to the Postman community beyond what you are doing other than your regular work, this program is for you, where there are some expectations, of course, from you, like you have to do a kind of any type of contribution. Either it can be a blog, talk, it can be any sort of contribution for a certain time, like the qualification. There are some qualification factors, and based on that, once you're onboarded to the program, you will have the opportunity to work closely with the developer advocates in Postman. So say for example, when I write a blog or when I'm doing something in Postman and I'm really stuck up, I have an easy access where I can go to those folks. They are really helpful and really generous, and they'll definitely come back and say like, hey Pricilla, can you wait? We have a defect fix, or maybe this will be fixed in the next version. So something like that. And another beautiful thing which we started recently is like early feature access. So based on the program, like Supernovas will have early access to the new features, which is going to be in market, which is something to be proud of, right? For that big product-based company, you're going to have some early feature, and you can. But of course, we have to sign the NDAs. We're not supposed to tell about that feature until and unless Postman is going to tell about that. But we can definitely pass on our feedback, and they respect our time. They respect our words, whatever feedback we provide, and they are really collaborative. So it's a kind of you get a good feeling like because say for example, there's going to be a feature which is going to be with automation testing, something with Newman or something like that, then I'm already using that. So I'll be a very good person to comment on that, like whatever feature they are going to propose, whether it is going to work or not, or what enhancements can be done or what. So these kind of feedbacks we can provide to them as well, Gandhar. Other than this, of course, the visibility, and you can be called as a Postman Supernova. And yeah, another good thing, sorry, I totally forgot about this. Postman folks are really generous, and they promote you. Say for example, I have an talk, just an upcoming talk about APIs as Postman. They promote my talk in their social media pages as well. So
that in order
people
to
come to know.
increase your reach or increase your visibility over the different social media platform like LinkedIn and Facebook. Okay. So,
Exactly.
so my next question is awareness part. Like how to create an awareness about API testing, like for different colleges, like tier 3 colleges, where testing is just a normal subject. And if I'm talking about testing, API testing act as a middle layer, but from the perception of learning material or practical part, it is at the very first layer. So in order to create that particular awareness, your perception and experience, what all things that you can suggest to that particular universities or colleges, like you can introduce that particular subject for a practical purpose?
Okay, that's a lovely question. I believe even Postman has also thought about it, and they have something called this student expert program, wherein like especially the college graduates, right? They can join the program and they'll get the basics of API, like what is an API, how it's going to work. So they can be closely working together with the people in the Postman. And I believe it's a kind of internship program as well. I don't have that much details, but I can send you some links also. I have seen people who are working as a student expert as well. So they are also focusing on the college students, as you mentioned. Like, they are going to be the next generation people, right? Either it is going to be testing or even development. APIs are going to be something, it's going to be a kind of new norm, right? So people have to know about API. So they started already spreading the awareness. Other than that, what we can do is like, inside in our organization also, when new joinees are joining, like, we can try to educate them the importance of APIs. And even though if you're not working with APIs, there are a lot of sources available, right? You can just try to understand at least the basics, like, what is this? That's it.
Okay.
Our people have the habit of learning something only when there is a need, like only when you're being pushed to learn that, right?
True.
But I would say, like, you might or might not like it, but I would just say give it a try. And also, for a few people, you might totally hate automation testing, because I have seen folks like, they don't like moving into automation testing. They don't like that at all. I will say, like, API testing is one of it can be one of your choices, like similar to ETL. It can be also one of your major choices as well. So we can try to create awareness by speaking more about the importance of APIs, I would believe.
And like, you are very active on LinkedIn, to be very frank. But the thing is, for a beginner, it is very difficult for a beginner to understand like how actually LinkedIn works. Here, LinkedIn works equal to like how we can showcase our different skills in a practical way, or in a blogging way on a platform like, I always say LinkedIn equal to professional social media platform. How to showcase your API testing skill as a beginner on a platform like LinkedIn?
Okay. One such thing is, like, I have seen people completing their courses and posting about those certificates and bragging about that. And before that, even I wanted to state this, Gandhara, because we all have the habit of judging others, like, just by in a fraction of a second, just by seeing the post or something. We all have the habit. I won't say that it's a bad habit, but try to change it. It's not that good. Like, you are just by a fraction of a second, we are judging that person, like, this is what they are, this is what he or she is. Like, don't do that. LinkedIn is a place, as you said, they are trying to be professional. Even if there are some unprofessional things, right? I would always, like, ignore it. That's it, because we don't have time for negativity. So just ignore that and just go on. So when these beginners are coming into LinkedIn and they wanted to showcase their API testing skills, right? Basic thing is to, like, to start with the certification, and they can, like, finish their badges and all those things, and they can add their badges to the profile and they can showcase that. And there are some, I think, REST API, and there are one more thing related to API testing, like the LinkedIn assessment also, which is provided, so they can try to complete that, and they can try to make their profile visible. And other than that, what I mentioned, like Postman Supernova program, that is also one thing. If they are college graduates, they can go for student expert program. So these kind of ambassadorship programs, again, going to build their visibility in LinkedIn. So they should know how to use LinkedIn. That is what I would say. Even if people are not using it in a right way, I would prefer to ignore it. That's it. Instead of judging them, I would just ignore it. Maybe it's their ignorance. That's it. So I will just ignore it. So never judge people just based upon their LinkedIn feed. Like, we never knew whatever things are going in their life as well. It's very easy to assume, like, this is what they are, but don't do that. And these guys can definitely enhance their profile by the certificates and badges.
Okay. So this is the last question for this podcast. Like, you have a very great experience, I must say, in that particular testing domain, which is a very beautiful domain. I always say that on every my podcast. Your experience and perception, your learnings, definitely have some better insight. That is why you are a public speaker or a public text speaker. If a person who don't have any idea about like testing, and he or she wants to pursue their career in the field of a beautiful domain that is software testing, your best suggestions to that particular persons?
Okay, sure. One thing is, like, to be honest, this is a kind of, even I'm totally being transparent here.
Yes.
Even when I was a junior, I had an assumption saying like learning or being a master in the client applications is going to be that is what a great tester means.
Okay.
Like because I know my client application A to Z. Even my client will come and ask me the question like, hey Pricilla, a BA will ask me a question, hey Pricilla, I did this flow and this was not working, any idea, like what did I miss? I thought I was so proud. Of course, that was something to be proud,
Yes,
but I was so proud. And I thought that is going to be entire testing, Gandharu. Like that is going to be my career. I made a mistake because later during my phases, when I was searching a job after 7 years of my career, I really felt bad of being so much dependent on client applications.
true.
It's really good to master your client applications, but other than that, what are the tech stack you know? What are the technical jargon? Like when people are speaking, what are the things that you can understand and interpret? I really miss that part. I feel like but I'm so sure, like younger generation are really doing better in that. I'm so sure they are really doing it good. So one thing I would strongly tell them is like improvise your profile as such, not just your LinkedIn profile, your entire tech stack, your career, like what I'm going to do next, if not this, if not what. So
True.
just try to have a clarity over there. And also switching jobs is good, but sometimes just give it some time and to see, because salary alone doesn't make you happy.
100%.
You have to have a happy working place. Like people should understand you, people should respect you, they should give you a pat like, hey Gandharv, you're really doing good, man, that was amazing. So these sort of good people around you, that really matters. So when you have good people and a medium pay scale and bad people and a really a good pay, don't go for that. I would say
Okay.
like your ambience, your work culture is really important for you, because I know that these guys are really smart, but sometimes I feel like maybe just for salary they are skipping. Of course, if they have done enough research, I'm happy about it. But just don't treat salary alone as an important aspect. I agree. Even for me, it really matters. But try to have some kind of important factors, like what kind of role, what
Okay.
kind of environment, work culture you're going to be in, and what is your salary. So just try to consider a few more factors along with salary, I would say. And the next thing is like be helpful as well. Like whatever things you learned, if you have struggled enough to learn something, make sure that you are giving or you're giving back to the community. Some
Okay.
people prefer to do it in a paid mode. Of course, that's fine, because I don't totally I don't want to judge people here. If you are spending your time, some people do it for a basic amount of some basic amount. That's totally fine. So it's up to you whether you wanted to do it for free or you wanted to do it for some kind of amount. That's totally up to you. But try to contribute back to the society, especially to the testing community, in whatever ways you can do. So I would always feel like it's a karma, right? So when you give it back to someone, definitely that will reach you in some day. So
Yes.
this is that is the reason I'm so cautious about my actions, Gandharv. Like if I do even a very small bad thing, no, that'll haunt me for days. So that's the reason I'll never do that. So why to do that and why to lose my peace? So just be myself. I'm so cautious about my actions just because of I strongly believe in karma.
True.
So these are the top three things I can think of right now.
Okay. I also wanted to add one point over here, like giving back to the community. And I usually follow one Hindi quote, like समाज में
Mm-hmm.
किया गया कार्य कभी व्यर्थ नहीं होता.
Mm,
You know,
mm, mm,
so this is the thing that giving back to the community plays a very vital role. You are totally
mm,
updated. You have a network
mm,
and many more.
mm,
These are going to be
mm,
the n number of benefits. Like you are
mm,
a part of a 21st century where n number of factors are there. Political reasons are there, social factors are there, macro
mm,
factors are there, micro factors are there. But how to look different and creative? You have to give it
mm.
back to the community in order to update yourself in that particular arena. And thank you so much, Pricilla, for joining and sharing your valuable key points about API testing for everyone. It really means a lot for me and my channel, that is Salesforce
Oh,
Testing Guy.
oh, Thank you. Thank you so much. You are doing an amazing job. And it's not that easy. Like you are spending your time for people. You are doing it for free, which is, I totally respect that. Okay. Because I strongly believe like time doesn't come for free for
Yes.
anyone, man. So you are doing it. You are doing an amazing job for the community. And all I would say, like, bless you. That's it. Take care. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you so much.